Today we're going to talk about Omen, because Omen is a problem in this game, but some people don't seem to think so. You see, some people, when I ever bring up like, oh, Omen's too strong, I think Omen needs nerfing, there are a percentage amount of people, and maybe you're one of them watching this video, that doesn't believe that Omen needs nerfing. That in fact, Omen isn't a problem in this game, and it's just that the other controllers in his class aren't as good as Omen, and they just need buffing, and that will sort out the problem. Now, the main thing that someone might point to as to why Omen is a problem is his pick rate. At the highest level, this is Champions 2024, and Omen's pick rate, as you can see, is the highest in the game at 62%. And in fact, across the entire VCT Tier 1 season, it was actually a bit higher than that at 65%, but still the most played agent in the entire game. But the thing is, the pick rate argument in and of itself isn't actually a good argument for why Omen needs nerfing. Normally, for most other agents, it is a pretty good argument of why an agent needs nerfing, but for Omen, not so much. And the reason for that is this, because in a pro game, if you want to run a comp without a duelist, you can. You want to run one without initiator, you can. You want to run one without a sentinel, you can. And people have and found success on various maps doing that. However, you're probably not gonna run a comp without a controller, and that's where the difference comes in. That if, for instance, you had a controller class where one controller was okay, but the rest were really bad, that one okay controller's pick rate would be really, really high, because you need a controller. But the actual agent wouldn't be a problem, it's just that the rest of the agents of the controller class aren't very good. And that's the argument that some people are making with Omen, that Omen is fine, it's just that the rest of the controller class isn't that good. Now, I will make one caveat in this video as well when I'm comparing Omen to the rest of the control class. We're not really going to talk about Viper, because Viper kind of has her own role in the game, and as you can see, Viper's pick rate is also very, very high, so I think most people understand that Viper doesn't need a buff. When they talk about the other controllers need a buff, I don't think that they're talking about Viper, so we'll kind of exclude Viper from this, but we'll talk about Omen and the rest of the controller class. And in tomorrow's video, by the way, I will be talking about how I would buff the other controllers and what I would do to them to try and get them and try and get the controller class into a healthy level. So if the pick rate alone is an example of Omen being a problematic character, let me try and prove to you then that Omen is a problem and does need a nerf. So let's start with Omen's smokes, and the first thing you should know about controller smokes is that each controller has their kind of own unique thing that their smoke does versus the other controllers. And Omen's, I would argue, is probably the best of these, because Omen can perform one-ways that basically no one else can consistently do, and one-ways are very, very good. Pretty much every level, not just a high level. Not only that, but Omen also has refreshable smokes, and at a high pro level, refreshable utility is extremely, extremely important, because a lot of rounds do go quite some distance, and so just having more utility is obviously good. The other thing that Omen has an advantage over some controllers is the range as well. With Omen, you can freely smoke across most maps. They also last 15 seconds, but I think the crucial takeaway here from Omen smokes is they're incredibly versatile. We've seen smokes like this become quite meta this season, where you put it a bit higher to create a small one-way, a brief window of a one-way there if someone is coming into that smoke. Or there's even, you know, parts of certain maps where people are doing little mini smokes like this, where you can make little smaller smokes like this one in parts of maps where it's advantageous as well and gives you more advantageous angles to play around. Like, there's just so much flexibility with Omen smokes that really make them better than pretty much every other controller's smokes. Next, we have Omen's Shrouded Step, and again, we're looking at an ability that is incredibly versatile. For instance, with a Shrouded Step, if the enemy team was rushing me down here on B and I need to get away, well, this is quicker than just running away. So that might be the difference of me getting away or not. If I've been caught on defense in a certain position, in a certain angle, and I can't really get away, well, with Omen, I can easily reposition with the Shrouded Step. If I need to get past Cypher or Killjoy utility with Omen, I can just TP past them. You can also be a second entry or maybe even primary entry in some cases as well with Omen, just TPing into the site. Omen is one of the few agents who can readily get onto higher angles that most agents don't have access to. And you can play around with the sound cue, making it seem like you've TP'd into one angle when in fact you haven't done anything whatsoever, creating misinfo. And if you're a defender here looking this way, you don't know which way to look, because maybe the Omen is TP'd here, maybe they faked it, we don't know. And those two abilities being so versatile is so important for what makes Omen so strong. Because the thing is, a lot of different things can happen in any given Valorant round. But if you've got abilities that you can use in many different ways, that gives you the option to potentially find value with them in most, if not all, rounds of Valorant. And that is a crucial thing for making an agent good. And then we come on to Omen's flash, the Paranoia, and a lot of you will be saying, TMV, we've got you. This is just a flash, it isn't that versatile. But the thing is, this is the best flash in the game, especially at a high level, because pros are really good at turning flashes and or shooting flashes. But the Omen Paranoia is the only flash that you cannot shoot or cannot turn. And that makes it incredibly strong at the highest levels. And again, it's good for both attack and defense side. It's good for taking space. It's good for holding space. It's just really good. But now we'll come to the Omen Truther's main argument, which is that Omen ult isn't very good. So we've got you there, TMV. And yeah, sure, I agree. The Omen ult isn't very good. It has some uses like this one, TPing from A to B on Ascent. It's pretty good if your opponents are doing a B exec. But for the most part, yeah, the Omen ult, not that impactful of an ult. I agree. But the problem is, people vastly overrate the importance of an ultimate for how good an agent is. The reason for this is because let's take a full 24 round game. How often do you actually get an ult in that game on average? Let's say you get 4 ults is around the average in a 24 round game. Let's say that maybe 2 or 3 of those ults find value, but maybe 1 or 2 of them, doesn't find that much value. You didn't actually need it that much in the round that you used it. So you've got 2 or 3 rounds worth of value from your ultimates in a game. That isn't that many, but for the most part, I'd much rather have a bad ult and 3 really good abilities that I can use in every single round, rather than have a really good ult and abilities that I have every round but aren't that good. And if you don't believe me, then take a look at Phoenix and his pick rate. And so that's my argument for why Omen is so good. The Omen is a very versatile character, and being versatile and having many options available to you, meaning that you'll find value in almost any round that is given to you, that is incredibly valuable. And to me, what would happen if you left Omen alone, but let's say you buffed Astra and gave Astra back her 5th star, which is what so many people want to do. They want to give Astra back that 5th star, and let's say that made Astra really good. A lot of people then would think, well, that would be great, because then the meta would be Omen on some maps and Astra on some maps, and you'd end up with a nice balanced controller meta. The thing is, though, that's not how it would play out. How it would actually play out in the pro scene is that if Astra got buffed to Omen's kind of level, you would just see a ton of Astra Omen comps. That is what would happen. And in fact, we've already kind of seen this before, right? We've already had a double controller meta before come about, so that's nothing new, and we know that double controller can work on a lot of these maps already, and is still the meta on quite a few maps as well. But we've already seen, you might think, well, you're not going to play Omen Astra, no one would do that. Well, the literal champ winners on Lotus play Omen Clove, and on Abyss play Omen Astra. Our champions winners are already doing that. So if you just buffed them, or buffed any of the other controllers to Omen's level, you would just see a ton of that. That is all you would get. And so that is why Omen does need a nerf. You can't just buff the other controllers, because you'll probably just end up in a double controller meta where Omen's pick rate is still extremely high, because Omen is an incredibly versatile and good agent. How do you nerf Omen? I don't really know. Let me know in the comments down below what your suggestions would be. You could do something with maybe the smoke ranges. You could nerf the Paranoia in some way, change the numbers on that somehow. I don't really know. But if Omen doesn't get nerfed, you're gonna see a lot of Omen.